What's good, my people? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. I didn't really post anything for last week's fights, although I did bet on them. Didn't do the worst on the card. Definitely didn't do the best. I got a couple of fights wrong that I was really shocked to see go down the way they did. Overall, almost 500 UFC fights, 330 dubs, about a 65% win rate, and we're starting to kind of slowly pick up our main event wins, getting it back in order. Honestly, I can't believe I started to fall off as bad as I did. I should have kept that under 10 losses, but you know what? It is what it is. First fight of the night, Rayanne Amanda Dos Santos taking on Talita Alencar. One of these fighters has legitimately like 16 more fights than the other, being Amanda Dos Santos. For some reason, I still want to side with Talita Alencar. I like her nickname. It's the problem child. I mean, Jake Paul kind of ruined that shit, but if he hadn't, everyone would really fuck with that name. I mean, they probably do. If you don't know who Jake Paul is, you're gonna fuck with that name. But I don't know. I've seen some of her fights. I was gonna say she only has a couple fights in general, but she just looks a little bit crisper on the feet, and on the ground, I think she's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna side with Talita Alencar. Moving on up the card, Tetsuto Taira taking on Carlos Hernandez. All right, this one I'll get specific, and I rarely do that, but I'm going to start doing that a little bit more, especially moving on into next year's Season 2 of picks, because I look at this shit as like a sports season for me, honestly. So, Tetsuto Taira taking on Carlos Hernandez. I think Tetsuto Taira is just way better on the ground, and in the grappling exchanges, he's going to be smothering Carlos like a wet blanket, like that type of style where it's just going to be complete control before submissions, and I think Carlos is going to be trying to rush to get up. He's going to, I don't know, maybe find himself on his hands in ref's position, and then quickly Tetsuro is going to slick over to the back and finish from that position. I don't know if it'll be instant, but I think he will for sure pick up a submission. Next up, Luana Santos taking on Stephanie Egger. Now, this one's a hard one to pick. In Stephanie Egger's last 4 fights, she's been 2-2. All of them have ended by a submission, and Luana Santos has a couple of submissions to her name, but where I actually think this is going to be more difficult of a fight for Stephanie Egger is on the feet. I think Luana Santos is just more fluid in her boxing. She's more comfortable on the feet, it seems like. Stephanie Egger, it's hard to pick against her because I feel like she arm bars the people I pick against, but let's just see what happens. I'm going Luana. Moving on up the card, Steve Garcia taking on Melquizael Costa. This is a really hard fight because I feel like if Steve Garcia was, I don't know, maybe just a little bit stronger, a little bit more physically imposing, he could get his takedowns on Melky and really neutralize the positions and make sure that he's not like throwing up anything off of his back, and he could take that route, you know, just kind of like go in with hooks and overhands, look for the takedown, play it safe. I think Melky is a little bit too good off his back and too like confusing to fight on the feet, and it's going to be a big problem for Steve Garcia. He gets hit a lot. He's really hittable. He doesn't really have any like area of his game where I feel like he's just super, I don't know, imposing. So yeah, I'm going with Melky. Moving on up the card, Hyun-Sung Park versus Shannon Ross. I was just talking to my friends about this. I don't know why Shannon Ross is in the UFC still. He for surely should have been cut a long time ago. It's probably because there's not that many or there weren't in the past that many flyweight names. I feel like that has to be the reason why this dude is still here. Either way, Hyun-Sung Park 8-0, looking pretty impressive at flyweight. I just think that he's going to be too slick on the feet, and I don't think it's going to be a finish because Shannon Ross is decently tough, especially being that he hails from Australia, if I'm not mistaken, and they're just tough out there. They're just built different. But I think Hyun-Sung Park's going to be too quick and too technical, and he's going to pick up a decision. Then we got Song Kanon taking on Kevin Jousset of, City Kickboxing, right? And he just debuted not that long ago, got a submission, I'm sorry. He was looking oddly slow on the feet, but you know what? He actually reminded me of Song Kanon's style when I was watching him fight. I think he is going to be a little bit quicker. Song Kanon might be a little bit more polished on the feet just because he does have 27 fights compared to Jousset's 11, or Jusset, or however you pronounce his name. But I think Kevin comes in with a good team. He's young. He got that UFC debut out the way, which is where most people have their jitters. Most people make their mistakes. I think he's going to come into this one confident, and he's going to find the knockout. Moving on up the card, Hyun-Sung Park taking on Andre Muniz. Andre Muniz has had such a fall from grace. This time last year, this man was looked at as like a boogeyman of middleweight. Adesanya was still kind of like the top dog, or no, I'm sorry, Pereira had just won the belt back, but around that time, Adesanya was still the top dog. We were kind of looking at the middleweight division of who could come up and take that belt from him? Who could take the dominant champion out, away from his throne? Obviously, we've now since seen that happen, and what we've also since seen happen is Muniz has lost twice in grappling fights and got subbed. So, Yin Young Park, he's great at takedowns. He's great at takedown defense. He has decent power. I think it just might be enough for him to counter Andre Muniz. I'm going to side on Yin Young Park, but it's hard to pick. Then we have Nasrat Haqparast taking on Jamie Malarkey. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. They changed the order of the card. Yeah, no. Tim Elliott versus Sumadarji. Tim Elliott versus Sumadarji. I'm going to side with Tim Elliott in this one. Nah, psych. I'm siding with Sumadarji. As long as Sumadarji can stay out of, multiple grappling exchanges where he's starting to get drowned and, you can really make mistakes, and then a guy like Tim Elliott will pick up the pace on you and, capitalize. As long as he can keep himself out of that, drowning type of grappling fight. He's too rangy on the feet. Tim Elliott has taken too much damage. I don't think Tim has jack for Sumadarji on the feet, at all. I'm going to go with Sumadarji, but I love Tim Elliott, and I love how active he is. Then we have the feature fight of the night, Nasrat Haqparast taking on Jamie Malarkey. Sorry, they switched up the order of these fights, I guess. And then it might even be switched up again, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if Sumadarji is the feature fight by the time you guys watch these. But this is a great fight. I don't know why Nasrat is such a favorite. I mean, he is quicker than Jamie, and I think Jamie is an orthodox fighter, and Nasrat's a southpaw, so that might give him some problems. But I think this should be a lot closer of a fight than it is. They're both really tough. I would actually hedge that Jamie Malarkey is a lot more tough of an individual. I think they're going to be scrapping from the get-go. Somebody's going to get caught big. Somebody's going to get dropped. I don't know that somebody's going to get finished, though. I can see both of these fighters taking a round and then the third round being just a dogfight for somebody to steal the fight away. I'm going to hedge Nasrat Haqparast, I guess. If I'm going to put money on it, it would be Jamie Malarkey just because of the spread. But yeah, that's a really good fight. Co-main event, Anthony Smith taking on Khalilius Roundtree. I love Khalil Roundtree. I love the way he fights. He fights like you jumped his mom last night. And yeah, I don't know, man. He throws shit that other fighters don't throw, even though it's legal. Like body kicks up against the cage. I don't know if you guys remember his fight from I think it was 2 years ago now. Or maybe it was last year, really early in the year. But he was fighting Carl Roberson, I believe. And he sits him down up against the cage, and he was already beating the shit out of him. Carl Roberson drops down, slumps down up against the cage. Khalil turns his body in, whips a fucking roundhouse, perfectly on the fat of his body. Perfectly on it. And I think that, drops him again, and then he ends up getting the finish from that, if I remember correctly. He just throws wicked shit. He throws that teep kick with a lot of power, or the oblique kick, I'm sorry, not the teep. I mean, he throws both. Now, of course, Anthony Smith is a veteran. He's fought for the belt. He's been in there with the best, but I think this is just such a tough matchup because he's so old. He's going to get leg kicked hard. I think he's going to go down. It's going to be a TKO. And then we have the main event, Song Yadong taking on Chris Gutierrez. This is a battle of speed and fucking insane knockout power and aggression versus slick technical striking and a good submission game. Because let's be real, if Chris Gutierrez is going to win, I mean, you would think it would be by sub or decision. Knowing the MMA gods, it would end up being by knockout. But you'd think it'd be by sub or decision, and if Song wins, it's probably going to be by a knockout. And if not, he's going to have done so much damage that the judges just give him, the fight. If I was trying to pick a round that I think this fight's going to finish, I'd probably call it kind of early. I would actually say second round, late into the second round. I think Chris Gutierrez is going to have a really good first round. First 3 minutes, maybe. I think Song Yadong's good enough to the point that he's going to figure him out quickly. He's going to start landing his shots by the end of that round, probably still lose the round, and then by the second round, he's just going to start taking over. Chris Gutierrez isn't going to know what he's doing. I think Chris Gutierrez is really, really good. He's underrated, but I don't think that he belongs in this main event. I think that Song Yadong is really just on the fucking rise right now, and he was already a young prodigy a long time ago coming into the sport. Now he's learned his lessons. He's fought the Corey Sandhagens. He's fought the Marlon Veras. He's fought literally everybody. So it's a hard guy to pick against. I'm siding with Song Yadong. Let me know who you guys got down below. Let me know who you're parlaying, all that. And I'll catch y'all at the fights.